Beautiful. Pin it. Hello friends, welcome back to my channel where we make pretty costumes and things. We are starting my holiday ball gown. I don't do one of these every year, but I've done two now and I like doing them. I tried one year and I tried doing it with like 8 days before Christmas. Failed epically, so we're starting in November this year. This week's video is going to specifically cover making a petticoat. With that being said, I would like to thank today's sponsor, my book. See what I did there? But honestly, my book is all about foundation garments. There is a whole chapter on petticoats. I even have a really lovely chart at the back of the book that goes over all of the measurements you need to make your very own petticoat that will fit over a hoop. What makes this petticoat different from the one in the book or the one that I made on Sally is that this one specifically is meant to go under a gown but without any hoop skirt. Several years ago made this white Christmas gown and I made a really good petticoat to go with it that went under the gown but didn't have a hoop under it, and I really liked it. However, there were a lot of things about that construction wise that I didn't like. It didn't turn out as pretty and fluffy and glamorous as I had personally hoped. So in this video, I'm going to kind of take and pull elements from all of these petticoats that I've made to develop a brand new petticoat that I will be making to wear underneath my Barbie gown, which I guess I should tell you which gown that I'm making. I'm making Barbie's 1991 holiday ball gown. I'm drawn to this dress because it's green. I haven't done a green Christmas gown yet. I've done two red Christmas gowns. I attempted a silver Christmas gown. So I feel like green is a really nice contrast to what I've already done. I also just liked the sequins on this a lot. I think that it's super cute. She's super blonde, obviously. But also I knew going into this that I could reuse my Lady Gaga wig for the wig on this. So that's also helpful. That's what I will be making in a video coming up at the beginning of December. But for this video, we are going to focus on the petticoat. So I'm going to be making that, and I think we should head on over to the table, and we have a big bolt of fabric to open up and see our materials for this Barbie costume. Also, this is my first time making a Barbie ball gown, which is also exciting. Okay, let's go. So let's start off with the organza. This is just crystal organza that I purchased from Fabric Wholesale Direct. I think I got, okay, so I bought 45 yards of it, but I think I'm only gonna need like 30 yards of it. However, I bought 45 because I might need some for another project. So the way that they work on Fabric Wholesale Direct is that like the more yardage you buy, you get put into different like discount categories. So by buying what I think I will need for another project now means that I will save some money. So I got 45 yards. I'll probably use 30. Okay, but the fabric that I'm actually gonna use to make this dress is this beautiful green velvet. This velvet is like a hunter green or a forest green, and it does appear really black on camera. That's just the nature of dark green velvet. I've seen a few other people make dark green velvet outfits, and I will have to kind of do some color grading in the photos so that you can see that this is green and not black. So if anyone comments below that I'm using black velvet, please understand that that's just the camera picking it up. That's not what it is. I bought 12 yards of this. I hope I use all 12. I think it's only 45 inches wide, and I'm doing a circle skirt for the main skirt, which we'll get into in the next video. So I bought a lot knowing that. It's also velvet, so I have to cut it a certain way. Again, we'll discuss that in that video, but I bought 12 yards. We'll see how much of this I use. Oh, and the last thing that I'll show you are the sequins that I bought. I bought really large sequins because I thought proportionally they would look better with this gown. I know they're not the exact same type of sequin, but I thought it would would be fun, kind of funny to work the sequins, the larger ones, into this, and it would just add a little level of like humor to it and also just kind of make it look a little bit more like her gown. Let's talk about the plan for making this petticoat, because that is the hardest part of petticoat making, is the math. Let's go. So the first thing that we're gonna do is start working on this top tier. We are going to be making a tiered petticoat, so it'll have 3 tiers, and I wanna have 5 layers. This measurement right here is my waist measurement, and this is the length from my belly button to just above my ankle. So we're gonna start with this half circle skirt up on the top tier here, and I'll talk about the math, and then we will get our fabric cutting before I start moving on to the math here. Okay, so to start out, the Mood Circle Skirt Calculator is going to be your best friend. If you know your circumference around your waist, as well as the length of skirt that you would like to make, this is really going to help you. For my circumference that I will be typing into the calculator to find my radius, I start with my waist measurement, which is 29 inches. Then I'm adding 2 inches, which is for the closure and any seam allowance. I'm gonna assume I will have to cut this out in 2 panels, but I could be wrong. So adding 2 inches just gives me some wiggle room. That gives us 31 inches. I put that in their calculator and they gave me 9.23. Now I am adding 11 inches to that. This is actually the length of the skirt. So I will find my 9.23. I will mark that. And then I'm going to find a second radius, which is my length plus my radius. So that's going to be 20.23. This means I'll have 2 circles marked on my fabric, and I will cut from here and here. These are all 5 layers. They're just hanging there because they are cut on the bias, and even though they're not very long, I still want them to hang overnight. But also I wanted to tell you that every layer I got, like layer 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, every like new layer, I actually added a 1/2 inch. This is so that when they lay a little bit larger on top of each other. I don't know if that'll make sense right now, but it will make sense when I'm making it. So now we got to talk about the next piece of like math and things. I will say, if you are making something similar to this and you're following along, I would recommend that while this is laying flat on your board, like on your cutting table, to measure the bottom hem like this in the half and write that down, so that while you are making this, you can collect data for the next step. Otherwise, it will be a little bit difficult. With that being said, the next step, we will need the measurement of this bottom hem for all of these layers. So yeah, let's get to it. C right here is what I'm using to denote this bottom line for my circle skirt, and that is 64 inches. Then if I multiply that times 2.5, it's 160 inches. And if I multiply that times 2.5, it's 400 inches. I've decided to go 2.5 times on these because I think it'll add more fluff. And since velvet is a little bit heavier, I would like the petticoat to actually stand a chance at like holding up the velvet. This strips over here. Basically what I did was I figured out what the width of my fabric is, which is 58. That's off camera, but the fabric width is 58 inches. So when I got 160, I divided it by 58 to figure out how many times do I have to cut my organza. So I have to cut 2.75 strips of organza to be 160, and then 7 strips to be 400. I've already decided that I'm going to do my, like, each tier is gonna be 14 inches. I'm gonna add a full inch for seam allowance, so it'll be 15 inches. So I will be basically cutting 2.75 strips at 15 inches wide is what I'll be doing. In order to cut 51 strips of fabric, I think I'm gonna need to call in for some backup. Eva says that it's time to end for the day, so it's time to end for the day. But I did get all the pieces cut out. So here they are. These are my piles, and I have labeled them all. So like L1 is layer 1 and T2 is tier 2. So that's what we got going on here. And tomorrow we will start assembling this petticoat. Hi friends, I am back and we are on day 2 of petticoat making. This is kind of how I see today going. I am going to go step by step on how I make one layer of this petticoat, but I'm going to batch some things. So for example, when I need to do a step like serge the edges of our little like half circle skirts, I'm gonna serge all of those edges. I'm only gonna show you one so I don't bore you with time lapses and the same thing 5 times. With that being said, when you make your own petticoat, you can make it anywhere from 1 to 7, 8 layers. I've never heard of anyone going above 5 layers, but I'm sure that it happens. But that's kind of my goal for like how to teach you about petticoat making. I'll basically be showing you how to make one full petticoat layer that you will repeat for as many layers as you need. And then when all 5 of my layers are done, we will make a waistband and closure, and then obviously run and frolic in our beautiful brand new petticoat. Let's start. The first thing that I really want to do is serge the edges of these half circle skirts. So I'm going to serge those edges and then we will move on to the next task. Okay, so the first thing to discuss is that I cut all of my strips, obviously selvage to selvage. So this is actually a finished edge. I don't have to worry about finishing this. Hypothetically, if you do have to finish this, I recommend just serging it, or you can do French seams. French seams, in my opinion, takes longer. So this is the top tier, which means it only has 3 strips of this fabric. And what I'm gonna be doing is basically lining these up on the edges and sewing them together. So that's what we're gonna do. So once I've sewn these 3 strips together, I can serge the top and bottom. Okay, so even though that this is the selvage, there are still little like dots right here. So I'm gonna try to sew so that my thread puts these in my seam. That makes any sense. So dots are gonna be to the bad side of the seam, no dots where you will actually see the seam. I don't know if that makes sense, but I just wanted to give that note before I put a time lapse of me sewing all these strips together. Okie dokie, so all of the tiers on all of the layers are now officially serged. I'll explain to you what I did. Basically on tiers 2, which is the middle tier, I serged the top, like both ends of them. And then for the bottom tiers, I did not serge one of the ends because we are going to hem this. So yeah, let's get to hemming. Okay, so I have my iron set to silk. This is the ribbon I bought. It's just like an 1.5 inch wide satin ribbon, so it is a polyester. It's not like silk or anything. And what I've been basically doing is I'm folding it in half and then I will press it with my iron and get like a nice little crease, and then I can pin it to the bottom of the bottom of the tier, the last tier. And I will show you that really quick. Okay friends, so I have one hem done right here, and basically I'm not gonna get to work on this again until Friday. So I'm going to try and get one more hem pinned before my 6 p.m. meeting. On Friday, I'm gonna start with just the hem, and then I'll start recording once I get to the point of actually building these, because once the hems are done, we're gonna gather, and so hopefully that won't take too long. I do have some time Sunday to finish this and then finish editing the video, have it up Monday. So hopefully it won't take too much of Friday to where like I can't get the whole thing done Friday. Ideally, I can get it all done Friday, but we'll see. All right, I'll talk to you then. Hi friends. So I have spent the morning adding all of the ribbon to this petticoat, the bottom layer. It took way longer than I expected, and I actually ran out. So or not ran out, but like I only have this much left, and that's like not enough for a whole layer. So I have one more layer I have to finish when I am, like once my ribbon comes in, it should be here tomorrow. I'm gonna move on to the other steps just because it makes more sense to me. First, we're gonna be at a different machine because I'm still waiting for my ruffle foot for the M7. So I did a test and it was successful. So we're gonna be on an older machine that isn't serviced and has tension issues. So we're going to be making lots of sacrifices to the sewing gods, hoping that they will give us just enough ruffle time, you know? I am going to basically ruffle down this second tier, and then I'll check back in when that's ruffled, and we will attach the second tier to the first tier. Let's go. Okay, so I'm about to attach tier 1 to tier 2, and I just wanted to give you some insight before I start pinning all of this. I like to mark a halfway mark on both tiers and a quarter way mark on both tiers for just these two shorter tiers, and then I will pin those sections. Then now once I get this all done, or now that these are all pinned, I will actually pin within it. And this is really just to help me make sure that, like, say these were ruffled, still not tight enough or not close enough together to be the exact distance of this one, that means that I have to do a little finagling, and so it'll mean that it's it's like distributed properly. I don't know if that makes sense at all, but I hope so. Is it time for me to go downstairs and eat dinner? Yeah? Is it time for cuddles? Okay, so it's time to end for the night, but I'll explain to you what I got done. Basically, I was able to get all 5 layers sewn tier 1 and tier 2. That's what kind of this is right here. I'll show you. You can kind of see. It's, you know, whatever, it is what it is. And then I also got 4 of the layers that have the trim on them all ruffled. It's almost 7 o'clock, so I'm calling it for the night. I'll be back in a day to add the satin to the last layer of tiers, and then I will sew this all up and add a waistband and a hook, and we will have a petticoat. Aw, yeah. Hi friends, so we have just a few more steps left in this petticoat making, but each step does take like a really long time. So what we have left to do is attach tier 3 to tier 2, which tier 2 is already attached to tier 1, so that's done. Then we have to sew up the back seam and then attach each layer to the waistband and add a hook and eye. So while there's really only like 4 steps left, it's gonna take about an hour to do like each layer, if that makes sense. So the first layer, it'll take me about an hour to pin and sew tier 3 to tier 2 and sew up the back. I think I can get this done in about 6 or 7 hours today. All right, I'll show you the next step. Okay, so just like the first sections, I guess, I marked these by half and quarter, and then I pinned them. So if you see here, this is just 1/4 of my layer or my section. And I had to pin, like I had to kind of pleat it in a couple spaces. So there, and then I think there's one over here too. Yeah, right here. So this just kind of helps me get an idea of what I'm working with, because they're not like 1-to-1 perfectly the exact same length. So because of that, I do have to add a little bit of a pleat here and there, but it's not really a big deal. So now that I've gotten 1/4 of this pinned, I'm going to pin the rest of it, and then I will sew it. All right, so here's 1 layer. So now it's just gonna be a lot of repeating those last 2 steps that I did, where I attached that and then sewed up the back. So I will check in with you once I've gotten all of the layers onto this, and we'll start discussing the waistband. Yay, we're almost there. Okay, so we are almost done with this petticoat, yay! What's happening here is I actually already stitched all 5 layers together, and how I did that was I folded them in half, marked the halfway mark, and then lined them up this way, and they actually were perfect except this one layer right there. And so I ended up having to pleat that, but then I stitched them all together. And now I am going to use the ribbon that I used at the bottom as my waistband. I was going to use twill tape, but the twill tape I have is 2 inches wide and this is 1.5 inches, and it just looks better. So we're going to use this, and I basically have it folded over and pinned. I cut it to 32 inches because that I want it to overlap by 1 inch when I add my hook and eye. So I had to pleat down some of it back here, but that is a-okay. We knew that would happen because, well, I knew that would happen. So now I'm gonna stitch this down, and then I will sew on a hook and eye and we will be done. Okay, so I did a brief 1.5 minute fitting to just figure out the placement of my hook and eye. So that's why it's so set like far in. I might put another one right here just in case like I gain some weight. That way I can loosen it, but I won't do that tonight. Here's the other piece. These are dress hooks, I believe. I really like these. I've been using them for a couple years now after someone suggested them. They're just a lot stronger and more durable than your typical hook and eye, so I prefer these for my petticoats. Now for the reveal. Let's go. All right, friends, there you have it. That's how I made the petticoat that goes underneath my 1991 Holiday Barbie ball gown. Just a few final thoughts. I really love the shape of it. I love how it's pretty form-fitting near the my waist and the top, and then it gets pretty fluffy and big at the bottom. I love how it feels. I was a little concerned that when I would walk, it would kind of like get stuck between my legs, but doing all the twirls and walking around my studio and stuff, it didn't really do that, so that's pretty great. I do wish that the top portion, instead of doing a half circle skirt, I did a 3/4 circle skirt. I just think that like this seam line right here is just a little close to my body, and like while like it fits and it's like not an issue, I feel like if it was 3/4 of a circle skirt, it wouldn't like, I wouldn't feel it. Like it wouldn't feel like there's a seam line like right on my butt. It would feel like just a skirt flaring out and getting larger at the bottom. But hey, we live, we learn. I didn't do like a mock-up of this or anything. You know, this is just how it is sometimes. But I don't personally mind it for this project and the other dress that I would wear it under. But if I were to do this again for like something bigger, I definitely would rethink that. And obviously if this was for a hoop skirt, it would have to be a full circle skirt because I need the complete circumference to get around a hoop. But this completely, it does exactly what I needed it to do. It gives me a lot of fluff near the bottom. It is really beautiful when it twirls because obviously I'll be twirling in this gown, and I did want some pretty layers underneath it when it twirls. And it also is not too bulky up in the waist. One of my other ball gowns or other petticoats that I've made, I think it was for Belle. It's very bulky in the waist and I don't like how that looks. So there we are. The next video that I will have is actually going to be all of the construction of the outer garment. So I'm doing all of the rest of the costume in one video, but it's going to be up in a little over 2 weeks. So please, if you are interested in Christmas gowns and you can't wait, then consider watching my Enchanted Belle dress or my Enchanted Christmas Belle gown. I made this 2 years ago. It's really fun. But yes, expect this video in around 2 weeks, maybe 2.5 weeks, so that I can finish the entire costume in that time and have only one video on making the entire gown versus like some of my other videos where I have like 5 videos on making one gown. Anyway. Thank you all so much for watching these videos. I hope that today's video brought you some kind of joy or inspiration, or you learned something. That's my goal with this channel and with everything that I do, is to just inspire and educate and bring a little bit of joy to the world. So I hope that I was able to do that for you today, and in 2 or so weeks, I will see you again with a brand new video. So until then, may all your dreams come true.